We go marketing reporting of adverse drug guideline PV04. It requires that applicants or holders of certificate of registration submit significant safety issues. And we've defined significant safety issues as new safety issues or validated signal that the applicant considered to require an urgent attention by the authority. And this, we expect that we would have identified during the ongoing review of the benefit-risk balance of your medicines, and based on the seriousness and the impact that the signal may have on the benefit-risk balance of the medicines or the impact on the public health, you will determine that it requires notification of the regulator so that regulatory action can be taken or it can be communicated to the public. To note is that a safety signal that lead or that result in international regulatory action we always consider it to be significant at all times, and that should always be reported to SAHPRA. And just to go again on our post-marketing reporting of adverse drug reaction of human medicines guideline, in section 7.6, it indicates that in addition to collecting adverse drug reaction reports, we require that applicants must inform SAHPRA, or if they become aware of any evidence that relates to their medicine, if there is any change in the nature, severity, and frequency of the expected adverse drug reactions or IFs or any new risks that will significantly impact the benefit risk of the profile of the medicines, or that can have an influence on the conditions of registration of the medicine. So this can be something that we identify internationally or locally, and we require that you inform SAHPRA within 5 calendar days of such identification. What we require is that also that you give us data or information or the basis of what triggered that, or where there is safety in signal emanated, what data is there, so that it can help us to review it further. And what are the sources of safety signals? So just to mention a few, that we get signals from cases that we get from suspected adverse drug reaction reports, from also we get it from clinical studies, PSURs and PBRERs, published scientific literature, post-marketing studies, also from other regulatory authorities. So, but our preference is that we prefer signals from recognized regulatory authorities. So these, you'll find more information on recognized regulatory authorities from SAHPRA's Reliance Guideline, but just to mention a few is the US FDA, the EMA, the MHRA, Health Canada, Swissmedic, and you can find more from the Reliance Guideline. And what is the significance of identifying safety signals? So it's patient safety. But as we know that during clinical trials, not all safety issues that relate to a medicine are identified. So during post-marketing, that's where the product is exposed to a large number of patients, and the duration is for a longer duration, and different types of patients, and also get information on off-label use and in drug-drug interaction. So identifying signals also helps us to ensure that the benefit-risk balance of a medicine remains positive throughout its life cycle, through checking on or detecting any changes in its in the nature or the frequency of adverse drug reaction or any new safety issue that can come up. So it also, identifying signals also help us to manage and minimize any known or suspected risks as that associated with the medicine, and then we can take a regulatory action. So what is the process? So what is the process that a safety signal goes through? So it starts with identification. So you can be identified by an applicant or a holder of certificate of registration, or it can be identified by SAHPRA. So what happens once you identify the signal, you notify SAHPRA through PV submissions at sahpra.org.za, and then from our side, it goes through screening. So for screening, we check if the safety signal is a duplicate, if something we've dealt with before, and so that we see whether we need to review or we can just mark it as a duplicate. We also check if the other regulatory authorities have taken any action or on the safety a signal, or if there's any information that will enable us to review it further. So for safety signals that the other regulatory authorities have taken actions on, we will either decide to either review further, or we can practice reliance by requiring that applicants apply this or take the same regulatory action from the local side. So sometimes we find that the safety issue that we are notified of, some other applicants already have it on the PIs, on PIL. So we usually will ask the applicants to align with the other applicants. So for signals that will require further review, it's get allocated to a reviewer and it gets reviewed. And from that review report goes through a peer review and gets discussed by our pharmacovigilance committee, the PVC, and then a regulatory decision is made and then it's communicated to a relevant stakeholder. And then from there we'll expect a response, which can either be an acknowledgement or depending on what communication is. So we'll get responses from there. So once the safety signal is closed, meaning the back and forth between SAHPRA and the applicant is closed, then we do publish those safety signals on our website, but it's mainly for the public, because the WHO requires us that we be transparent and we communicate them to the public. And what are the possible regulatory decisions that we are likely to take? So we usually would require a PNPL amendment or packaging amendment. We'll also do a restriction of the conditions of use of that product, or can recommend scheduling status changes or withdrawal or suspension of the medicine depending on the safety issue, or close monitoring of the safety issue. We also can also publish safety alerts or media release, or recommend distribution of a DLT professional letter. We can also recommend taking additional risk minimization measures, like your educational material, as well as developing risk acknowledgement forms or patient cards. And what do we consider when we take regulatory decisions? So we look at the sufficiency of the relevant supporting data that is there, that is available for us. We also look at the strength of the available evidence, that is the seriousness of the safety issue. Is there any biological plausibility, and what post-marketing data is there? So are the cases that we have positive de-challenge and positive re-challenge? What is the influence of the confounding factors? We look at the plausible time to onset, among other things that we check. We also have a look at what public impact does the safety issue have. So what we also do is practice reliance. So based on the seriousness of the safety issue and the public impact, also depending on what data is there for us to work on, we do rely or adopt other regulatory authorities' decision, and we request that applicants, they align in that case. So another decision we will take is alignment. If there is a safety issue and we find that for the same medicine, other applicants have already included in the PI. So we'll request you to, if we find that it's something that we consider to be significant to be included in the PI, we'll ask you to align with the rest of the applicants. And what are the benefits of safety signal management? So it's mainly the safety of public health, as it helps us to develop risk management plans, and it also provides access to correct information on the benefits and the risks of the medicine, leading to safer medicine, informed patients, and improve ADR reporting. We also have updated product information, which will help to improve treatment decision-making and increase patient safety, and this signal management also help to modify treatment, modify standard treatment guidelines. Okay, now I'll move on to what does SAHPRA require from holders of certificate of registrations or applicants. So we expect that you conduct safety signal management from your site, having all your data, and then we notify SAHPRA within 5 calendar days from identification, and we expect that you receive and respond to our recommendations. So you will either accept an action, or you will acknowledge, or you respond to dispute the recommendation and indicate to us your intentions to provide us with more data or motivation, and also you can also respond to accept and ask more time to implement the recommendation. And of course, you need to submit your response to pvsubmissions@sahpra.org.za. And what are the challenges that we have? I'll just mention those. That the few is the increased number of signals that we have, particularly from non-recognized regulatory authorities. So like I've mentioned, our guideline, we will require significant safety issues. So, but we've acknowledged that the reason we receive all signals, not only signal safety issues, because we don't have a guidance in place or guideline in place that guide how this should be done from the applicant's side and from our side. So we are currently working on that, so that there is an understanding from our side and from your side, and so that we are all on the same page and we know what to do. Another challenge that we have is that sometimes some of the notification that we get, they have insufficient information for us to move forward. So we do have our back and forth between applicants and us, trying to get more data for us to investigate further. Sometimes the safety issue is, or the information is in foreign language, so we'll be going back and forth to us for translation. And we also get cumulative reviews that we request that are not adequate, so which does not give much information to us to really understand and to move forward in our reviews. One other challenge is the dispute that we have for our recommendation. Yes, we do agree that you can dispute, but sometimes we just find it difficult when an applicant have accepted a recommendation from other regulatory authorities and they seem not to want to align, and when we request them to do so. Okay, in summary, just to indicate that in SAHPRA we do review safety signals, and we make regulatory decisions through, and we make use of our committee, the Pharmacovigilance Committee, and from there we will have a regulatory decision which will include PNPL amendment, risk communication, which can either go to the general public, which is media release, or healthcare professionals, which is these healthcare professional letters or medicine safety alerts, or we can also recommend development of additional risk minimization measures. And in conclusion, those are our contact details. If there are any safety signals, you send them to pvsubmissions@sahpra.org.za, or for queries, it's all pvqueries@sahpra.org.za. And thank you for listening, and thank you for your continued cooperation.
Right, thank you so much, Sasani, for that informative presentation. Again, I'm going to take one question. Okay, Daisy.
Hi, Sasani. Thank you for the lovely presentation. Just in terms of timelines for your review periods. So if you get a safety signal from EMA, how long does SAHPRA take in terms of review, as in we're going to implement this in South Africa? And then on the cumulative side, you've got a safety signal, you're still assessing whether it's applicable to the South African market. How long is that review period, roughly, with SAHPRA?
From our side.
Yeah, from your side.
Okay. So from our side, from our standard procedures, for a safety issue, we are allowed to, or we are required to have concluded, I'll say review and making a decision until we conclude. We are given 40 working days. So once you notice it comes to us and we've received it, from that day, we are within our timelines if we have completed it within 40 working days. So meaning the review and the back and forth, actually when we accept it, we review, we have it peer reviewed and discussed until a recommendation goes out. So we have 40 working days.
Sorry, and for the cumulative, just say you're still deciding and you're requesting more information from the applicants?
So the applicant, when we send a recommendation for a cumulative review, we ask you, we give you 30 days to provide the cumulative review.
But the SAHPRA review timeline?
It's the same. So when it comes back, for us it's a response. It comes in as a new submission. So it have a new 40 working days for it, because it might be one applicant, it can be many applicants, but it also, we have 40 working days for anything new that comes into our mailbox.
Okay.
Thank you. So colleagues, we're out of time. Is that an online question? Okay, we'll just take it because it's online.
For the challenge relating to notifications of safety signals having insufficient information, can SAHPRA state what information should be included in the notification, possibly a template? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we are working on that. What we are actually doing, we are developing a form for notification, which will attach to one of our guidelines, which will guide you on what information we require. So I think we'll first put it in our post-marketing guideline first, as we are still busy with the signal management guideline, which I think the guideline for post-market will be out soon, maybe in a month's time. We have put it down, but yes, just expect it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Susani, for your time. And just as a token of our appreciation from SAAPI, here's something small. Right, I'd like to now introduce Don Lebitsa and Tsepiso Bukaba. Don Lebitsa is the Senior Business Process Consultant at Vector Life Sciences. She is a pharmaceutical science with 20 years of experience in the pharma industry. She was part of the ECTD pilot project at the former MCC in June 2013. This led to her speaking at the South African ECTD experiences and global conferences in the UK, Germany, and Greece. She's experienced in implementing RIM solutions in industry, and recently as a project manager at SAHPRA, where she was involved in reviewing the ECTD specifications and implementing DocuBridge. Her expertise expands to defining business processes for the RIM software with document, submission, and tracking management functionalities. Tsepiso Bukaba is the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority's ICT manager in charge of digitizing platforms for the authority's regulatory operations. Tsepiso understands regulatory frameworks and serves on the Information Management Systems Technical Committee of the African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Initiative. His commitment to improving SAHPRA's operations includes innovative and creative solutions, as well as alignment and collaboration with other regulatory authorities, particularly on the continent. Tsepiso blends his interest in ICT technology with a dedication to public health by ensuring that SAHPRA online services are available to industry and regulatory bodies. Colleagues, please join me in welcoming Don Lebitsa and Tepiso Bukaba on their presentation for new specifications on e-submissions for complementary, veterinary, clinical trials, and medical devices. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tepiso, as introduced. I'm here with Don. Welcome to the afternoon shift. Thanks. I'll start our presentation. It's on the e-submission, the e-submission specifications. SAHPRA will be posting ECTD submissions on the website before the end of the week. We would have wished to actually have them before the presentation, but there's a new submission that will be sent for industry for yourselves to comment on them. So that you can make that note that before the end of this week, you will have the new submissions. There will be a document for you to actually comment on that will be going out. Thanks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Don, D-O-N, short like the owner.
Thanks. As part of our presentation, this is just the agenda. So we'll be going through e-submissions in preparation for a full ECTD, the SAHPRA's e-submission guide, applying for the e-submissions, then Q&A at the end. As part of our submission, what's the difference between an e-submission and an electronic submission? As you all know, we have the e-submissions in preparation of ECDD to comply with the ICH standards. So we need to define, for you to have e-submissions, you need to have e-submissions have a defined structure. In that there's relations and there's XML and metadata associated with them. So as part of the e-submissions, I'll go through, and you also have granularity when you actually, for evaluators, when they're doing evaluations, and the file formats are defined and the documents that's required. I'll let Don explain the electronic submissions that we had prior, that we normally used to get via CDs, and the challenges that we got prior to actually us introducing the e-submissions. Thanks.
Okay, so as you all know, we do have the current e-submission specifications, but those are more based on the NIS, the non-ECTD electronic submission. They are based on file and folder structures and the like. They don't have the XML backbone. So basically, something like your PITE currently, there is no structure to something like that. So that's what we mean by the undefined structures. So you can have a folder or two and just dump everything in there. That is not structured, and that's where we're wanting to move away into a more new age e-submission that has some sort of intelligence with the XML backbone. And we also then, the current electronic submissions, they don't have granularity, they don't have the file formats defined, and also with the file requirements, there's no definition in terms of what formats are required.
Thanks, Don. What is structured electronic submissions important? I'll let Don ask the questions, then I'll answer.
Right. So with an a structured electronic submission, these are predictable in terms of the content, right? You know exactly what is required and where you're going to find it. And this, for the IT person,
it enables us validation. So what that means is that it will check that the documents are actually technically compliant when we do the actual validation. Thanks.
All right. Then it also allows, when you have a structured e-submission, it allows for automation compatibility. What does that mean in IT?
It gives us an opportunity to do processing the data, because there's a metadata and relation that's there. So it makes the processing actually quite automated and easier for us. Thanks.
All right. And it is also evaluation friendly.
That means that it increases efficiency. We're able to do the work with minimal error possible, and also in time, the time that's actually required to do it, it's okay. It's in good. We do it accordingly. Thanks. The difference in what's the difference? So with ECTD, we have XML elements. What XML elements means that there's a relation at the back end. So at the back end, there's metadata that actually talks to one another, in that you don't have a document that's actually unstructured, so it's not folder under folder under folder. There's actually a correlation at the back end that we use, that we can see as IT. That means that there's envelopes and in trigger files. There's also that information and metadata of other systems. This means that there's also lifecycle management. In those documents, you have that same lifecycle management and sequences. Let's say you need to give us another document, or there's a file missing that you need to. So the sequence, it's structured. There's the numbers that are there from 0 to whatever sequence that you can have. So we're able to actually go back and check on the sequence where we can actually get the documents, because it's structured, and you can also have reuse the content, and has an integrated file security for ND5 checksums that we use, because security is one of the things that actually makes me not sleep at night. I don't want to be hacked, or have your information gotten by an external party that might use it for harm also. Thanks, Don.
All right. So with your current CTD submissions, you don't have an XML. You have folder in a folder in a folder in a folder in a folder, and eventually you get to the document. Right. And then, then obviously it has the trigger file only, or we're going to require, when we start taking in this new intelligent e-submissions, we're going to require that you give us the trigger file, and so that's all you have. You don't have that envelope XML info as well, the metadata in there. And then the two big differences with the ECTD, and also the disadvantage with your e-submissions, are the fact that you don't have a lifecycle management. So those that are in orthodox and biologicals and have done a few ECTDs, you understand lifecycle operations. It's either you have a document in a sequence as new, and in a follow-up submission you might have it as replace. You might also delete those documents if you are adding like an additional API supplier, So those are the lifecycle operations in ECTD. And what that does with ECTD is it's easy for you when you're already at sequence 10, because of the backbone in the background with the XML, you are able to see exactly what content was at what life cycle in each of those sequences. Now, with e-submissions, you don't have that. And you actually have to manage that manually, but we'll go into that in later slides. Right. And then also with the e-submissions, you don't have content reuse, and there's no integrated file security with the MD5 checksum. So this is just to gear you up to the fact that, yes, with the vets and medical devices and the CAMs, we baby stepping and defining to say we're going with the e-submission, this intelligent one that has an XML, but the long term is we desire that you should look into going ECTD in the near future.
Thanks, Don. Second part of the agenda is the SAHPRA e-submissions. As I've mentioned, we will be publishing the document for industry to comment before the end of the week. Out with the old, no more NIS. I think at the beginning, Don explained earlier of what NIS is. So the problems with NIS is that there's no processing data, no envelopes, no automation that's possible. We've touched a little bit of it. but I'll let you speak about the PDFs and the word issues that we actually are currently facing.
Right. So those that have gone through the nightmare of compiling with the current CTD submissions, the nightmare of compiling the PDF talks, I'm sure you will appreciate this whole, I see Daisy is nodding, you'll appreciate the whole thing with the XML, with this new e-submission specs, because you don't have to deal with this. This is historically from back in the 90s, from the US FDA, ENDAs. And you'll know and understand they are work intensive, and obviously they are more prone to mistakes, and that also will make navigation inefficient for the evaluators.
Thanks. The new generation of e-submissions. Smarter with processing data, as mentioned, envelopes, trigger files by the portal. Automation is possible. Easy to compile.
No PDF talks.
Yeah. XML backbone on the structure, and automated SAHPRA via the SAHPRA to create SAHPRA, auto create by SAHPRA via automation before import. I'm not sure if you'd like to add there.
Yeah, so with the last point of auto created by SAHPRA via automation process, so SAHPRA has a tool that once you've put together your structured e-submission, you give it to them and they plunge it into this thing, and within 2 minutes it creates your XML backbone, it creates your MD5 checksum, and you're good to go. I think the next slide, okay. We already have the 5 minutes thing, so let's...
Oh, no, let's move quickly then.
Right.
The e-submission XML backbone, in line with modern electronic submission, allows efficiency, no additional work, eliminates human-prone. We'll move quickly because we still have around a number of slides to go through, so I'll move quickly.
Yeah.
Until the ones
Let's
that
get
are
to the
interesting.
video. So you can see we start with this folder structure, and you have your initial sequence, and then you go into the folders and into the folders and into folders. This is your current CTD e-submission, which doesn't have the XML backbone. Do you see how many times we have to click, 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 click before we get into the actual document? 5 years later. Right, but this is now the new, right.
On your right-hand side. So you'll see the information that it actually has and the settings. Because of the XML backbone, the information and the file structure is there. There's a web view and structure. There's versions associated with it. As mentioned, the MD checks for security as well is there. So I think you'll see later on how it actually comes up and it looks when an evaluator is doing and accessing the document. Thanks.
Right. So it's important to note exactly you are telling it what it needs to do. It needs to create your backbone, the web view. You would know this is one of the PDF requirements. And then once you've done your settings, you pull your sequence level folder into this thing, and 2-3 more clicks. Going once, twice.
It's alive.
Done. Okay, and there's your index XML with the, so now you can now just expand this thing and you are able to access your documents. Okay.
Thank you.
All
Because
right.
of time, remember the CTD submissions that we will be preparing as SAHPRA that will be given. This will be for the veterinary clinical master file and camps. So the document that will be shared will be for this. Thanks. I'll move quickly on this one. The rules.
Okay. So you might be saying, what structure must I use then to submit my camps?
Oh, sorry. It's the same as ECTD.
Okay.
So I think.
What content must I submit?
It will be the same as the document matrix.
Okay.
The document matrix is also part of the document that you will share.
Okay.
You go through it. Thanks.
Right. What submission times are there?
The same as the ECTD. You must also look at the defined lists. Sorry.
Okay. What submission types can I combine?
Same as ECD. Submission type matrix.
Right. What granularity must I follow?
Same as ECTD.
Okay. Is there a validation criteria?
Same as ECTD. So tonight you will be saying same as ECTD when you get home.
Okay. We want you to dream ECTD. Next slide.
Next slide.
Right, so just quick pointing to this document matrix. This is on the SAHPRA website. Quickly, so in the sectors that we're dealing with, we're using this document to define the documents that you will be required to submit. And then we've also defined the validation criterias. So letter of application, if it's not there, you're going to get an error, you're going to get a validation failure. P is for content that is possible depending on the submission type. So this is in line with us getting more intelligent from a regulatory and more agile, because with these kind of changes, we don't have to actually update the specifications. These are managed outside of the specifications. So when there's an additional, we've currently had an additional submission types that we had to add, and we didn't have to go and update the ECTD specifications. We just go into these and we do the updates quick. Next one.
I think I'll move quickly on this one. It's just explaining what the XML triggers on application content type documents.
Yeah. So these are the lists that are on the SAHPRA ECTD website. These are the ones that at the back end we are managing to do all these quick changes that come from the industry. I mean, the type 2 related submission types, those came from one of the webinars with industry in April, and we were able to quickly add those in. You'll notice if you've downloaded the new 2.0 trigger file, they are in there. Right.
Thank you.
Right. This is the submission type matrix. Sorry. So the submission type matrix, it gives you the idea of what submission types you can combine. This is also then outside and flexible, outside of the ECTD specifications. We are able to do the changes and good to go. Right.
No, you can go ahead and explain the granularity.
Okay, the granularity annex. So for the newbies on this whole e-submission stuff, so this just clearly defines in which level you can have content and in which level you can have more than one file or you can have multiple files. So this is also in the ECTD specs.
Thank you. On naming components, it's important what you should know. You should be used whenever multiple or same files are provided in sections. Should clearly differentiate between the files and should be kept short. You see, as an example there, it's application form 1, application form 2, but now it should actually state clearly that application form 1, 10 milligram, more than 20 or 30, but I know that you are all familiar with that. Thanks. Table of content lifecycle, we actually explained on it earlier. If you can see, it shows you what the document, when it was actually put in as a cover letter, when it was replaced, when new, and following a sequence. You'll see that the sequence starts from 01 until 04. So now it becomes tedious when you're evaluating if you have this on paper, because now imagine if we are on sequence 100. It's going to be actually quite a challenge. And the list, that challenge that we have is that the section and title for every file, sequence last provided, the lifecycle operation used, and sequence last approved. Thanks.
Okay. So what I need to highlight here with the e-submission and prep you towards ECTD is the fact that we mentioned earlier there is no lifecycle management with the e-submission. So you actually, with every sequence you're submitting, then you have to manually tell us on this table, you have to submit this table and tell us when last in which last sequence you submitted the document and what lifecycle it was and when it was last approved.
Thank you. The e-submission cover letter, you know that when you submit for each and every phase of ECTD submission, you need to have this for acknowledgement as a submission. For phase 1, requirements analysis, phase 2, your user requirements collection, the phase 3, solution analysis, Phase 4 solution selection and budgeting, Phase 5 solution implementation, and that's a description of the solutions. I'm not sure if you'd like to add, but we can move.
Yeah, so here the key point is the fact that you need to acknowledge that e-submission is a temp solution. You need to be thinking about going ECTD in long term when SAHPRA eventually prompts.
Thank you. Reference to the ECTD submissions on portal requirements and obtaining application ID, application number and sequence, file type, electronic signature, empty or missing submission sections, document identification aids. I know that this solution is actually quite good with regards to the bookmarks that it has and the hyperlinks, so that we can move from one document and another. It makes life easier for the evaluators, because now they don't have to go from document to document, from folder to folder to folder, as explained. So it makes it, because of the structure, how structured it is, it makes it easier. Thanks.
Okay, so just one note here is these are just the business protocol and regional requirements. These are also as per the ECTD specifications. So all of these are fully covered there. We're swiftly moving into the IMDRF.
Yeah, but with IMDRF, that's also the plan as well when we actually have it in. I know Dr. Dimakazi will actually be happy if once we have the solution in.
Yeah.
So as the same, we can go through, explain to them that it will be the same as on the ECTD submissions. So this is actually just explaining the same as the other one.
Yeah, so we've started engaging internally with all the different stakeholders. We're still going to engage further. The initial ones were with the medical device, with Dr. Dimakazi. We already had the first session with her, and we actually created the IMDRF TOC structure in the system, and this is what it will look like when it comes into the system. And also just to highlight that we're going to have a separate e-submission specifications for the medical devices.
Thanks.
Right. So these are the trigger file, the provisional trigger file requirements. This is the metadata that we would require when you submit the IMDRFs. And the ones that are highlighted are the ones that are coming from the requirements of the medical devices, like your GMDNO. This is currently in those Excel sheets for medical devices. So these are possibly the ones that we would add. We've reused the metadata from orthodox and biological and just customized for the medical devices. Okay, so other applications that are still going to come on board with this CTD e-submissions are your SMFs. We're still going to have those internal discussions with the stakeholders and define their requirements. And ideally, all applications submitted to SAHPRA will eventually be converted to e-submissions, even your PITEs.
I'd like to repeat that it will be actually beneficial or great to have all for SAHPRA, for all the submissions to be converted to e-submissions.
Yeah.
Thanks. As part of the agenda, I know they're going to ask me about timelines, so I have it here as the last slide, because we don't have definite timelines. But what I can confirm, it's the ECTD document that will be published before the end of the week for the industry to comment.
Yeah, the e-submission.
Yes.
Yeah. ECTD went out in March. Okay, thank you. That's all, folks.
I'm sure.
Yo, this is very exciting. Where SAHPRA is headed, digitization, making things easier, making things quicker for us as industry. Thank you so much, Don and Tepiso. I'm going to make a very unpopular decision. I'm going to take questions after our last speaker. Okay, so I'm going to just thank Don and Tepiso quickly, and then I'm going to call our next speaker. Okay, so please, Don.